Welcome to Witness Wednesday here on the Walk Boldly with Jesus podcast. I am your host, Katherine Duggan. However, each Wednesday, I will have a guest give their witness of how God is working in their lives. Hearing how God is working in other people's lives shows us how deeply He cares for each one of us individually. Listening to these experiences will help your faith grow. I am so blessed to be able to share these with you. Let's get started. Today's witness, I am reading from a book, Chicken Soup for the Soul, a book of miracles, 101 true stories of healing, faith, divine intervention, and answered prayers. My mother-in-law bought this book for me for my birthday this year, and I thought it might be good to share a story with you here and there for Witness Wednesdays. Today's story is called Trapped Beneath a Tombstone. Mama! My 6-year-old daughter Blake's scream shattered the tranquility of the March afternoon. Somehow I knew this was not one of her "come look at what I found" or "let me tattle on my brother" outbursts. Something was wrong, really wrong. Heart pounding, I bolted toward the corner of the yard where the children had been playing. Nothing could have prepared me for what I saw there. Our 2-year-old son, Matthew, lay in the damp grass of the small cemetery located at the edge of our property, his body wedged beneath a 4-inch thick tombstone. His head was pinned to the ground by this massive granite slab. He wasn't moving, and he wasn't making a sound. "Please, God, no," I prayed aloud. "This can't really be happening. Let this be some terrible dream. God, please." "Tim," I screamed for my husband. "Hurry!" Tim bolted the low fence that surrounded the cemetery. Though he's big and strong, 6'5" and 250 pounds, it didn't seem possible that one man could possibly budge the enormous grave marker. But with a single adrenaline-powered heave, Tim rolled the tombstone off Matthew. Then he charged toward the house and the telephone. I scooped my son off the cold ground and cradled his limp body in my arms. His eyes were closed and his breathing was shallow and ragged. Blood trickled from his nose, eyes, and mouth. "Don't die," I begged him, hugging him close. "Please, Matthew, don't die." That day in March had brought the first warm temperatures of the year, and spring fever had hit our family in a big way. I washed windows while the children played outside. Tim declared the afternoon perfect for painting some old wicker furniture. Knowing that wet paint and small children don't mix, I had shooed Blake and Matthew out of temptation's way. "Is it okay if we play in the cemetery?" Blake had asked. I had nodded consent. The cemetery had been a source of fascination ever since we bought our 5-acre piece of rural property a couple of years ago. Abandoned and overgrown, no one seemed to know who was responsible for maintaining its 18th and 19th century graves. And so we became its unofficial caretakers. Sometimes we'd walk among the graves, reading the inscriptions on the tombstones. Blake was fascinated by a large number of children's graves. "Why did so many children die in the olden days?" she asked. "People didn't have good medical care back then, like they do now," I explained. Those words came back to me now as I held Matthew's frail body in my arms, in a cemetery filled with medical miracles. Could doctors fix my little boy whose head had been crushed by a tombstone? And would he even live long enough to make it to the hospital where they could try? I closed my eyes and once again began to pray. "Please, God, let Matthew live. Don't take my son away." As I opened my eyes, a strange peace descended upon me. "Have faith. Everything's going to be okay. Matthew is in my hands." Those words filled my heart as I stroked my little boy's soft hair and waited for emergency personnel to arrive. Have faith. A life flight helicopter touched down just minutes after an ambulance screamed onto our property. "We've got a hot load," the driver shouted to the pilot. "Get him to the hospital as quick as you can." Hot load. I'd never heard that term before. And yet the words caused no panic in my heart. The peace I'd felt earlier remained. Matthew is in my hands. Because we weren't allowed to ride in the helicopter, we jumped into Tim's truck and gunned it for the hospital. but Matthew had already been taken into surgery by the time we arrived. Friends and family gathered in the waiting room. With each tearful hug or handshake, I felt myself grow stronger. Matthew's going to be okay. I kept saying, I know he is. 5 hours later, Tim and I were allowed into pediatric intensive care, lying in a stark white crib, immobilized by a neck brace with tubes connected to various parts of his body. Matthew bore no resemblance to the boisterous child who'd been frolicking in the yard and climbing on gravestones just a few hours earlier. He's not going to die, right, Doc? Tim stammered. Tell me my boy's going to be okay. We can't know that yet, the doctor answered softly. It's a wonder he's alive at all. There's some possibility of paralysis, maybe brain damage, and a strong chance of his hearing or vision being affected. The color drained from Tim's face, and he collapsed into a chair. I went to him and I put my arms around him. Matthew's going to be fine, I said. How can you say that? He said, tears streaming down his cheeks. How do you know? I have it on good authority, I told him. The ultimate authority. As he is 100% of the time, that authority proved to be right. Exactly 1 week after the accident happened, Matthew was discharged from the hospital. He went home with a fractured facial bone, a crushed ear, a broken nose, and a shunt in his lower back to remove fluid from his spine. I never expected that baby to make it, one of the life flight nurses confessed to me the day we left the hospital. It's nothing short of a miracle. Today, Matthew is a happy, healthy teenager. He loves sports and video games and does well in school. The only reminders of his accident are his eyeglasses he wears to protect his strong eye and a compromised sense of smell. Though he has no real memory of the accident, he has heard the story retold so many times that he claims to remember it in great detail. So what saved Matthew from death that fateful spring afternoon? Some say it was the fact the ground was so soft that it gave way just enough under the weight of the tombstone that the child beneath it was not crushed. Others credit our county's 911 location identification system for allowing emergency workers to reach our home so quickly. Still others point to the fact that our yard was large and flat enough for a helicopter to land. All those factors no doubt played a role in Matthew's miracle. But I know what really saved his life that afternoon. Matthew does too. Dad lifted the tombstone off me, and a helicopter flew me to the hospital so the doctors could operate, he says, and God saved my life. Matthew is in my hands. He's going to be all right. God whispered to me that horrible afternoon, have faith, have faith. I did, and I still do, now more than ever. Mandy Hastings. We have all seen God working in our lives. However, we might not all be aware it is God who is working in our lives. This is why it's so important we start talking about it more. The more we share our experiences, the more people understand how God works and how much He truly loves us. If you would be willing to share any of your experiences of how God has worked in your life, please email me at Catherine@findingtruenorthcoaching.com. CATHERINE at findingtruenorthcoaching.com. Or you can click on the link below. It won't take up much of your time, and your story could be just the story someone needs to hear today. Please prayerfully consider sharing your story. Everyone has one, and the world needs to hear them. I look forward to spending time with you again tomorrow. Remember, Jesus loves you, and so do I. I will have another witness for you next Wednesday. Have a blessed day.